Start this. Alright, so welcome to MAGA PVP Lesson number 4. Today's topics will be 5v5s, which we had from last time, including crystals and hellgates and stuff like that. Also adding to that, we have the small scale fights, open world, also dungeons. Actually, let's just cut out the dungeons, let's just say small scale open world. And then ganking. Ganking. What do you guys want to start with? Oh, I'd probably say ganking first, since that's probably the most common thing that people are gonna do. Sure. Just like
I think
no one says anything.
what about we start with Hellgate, since like the last time we actually hinted about 5v5s and builds and we just left it off because of time.
Yeah, we can do 5v5 as well because of last time, I guess. Okay, so 5v5s. Okay, let's talk about the two major 5v5 contents in this game are GVGs and Hellgates. Hellgates being full loot in yellow zones and red or black zones, and GVGs, well, crystals, being full loot in everywhere except level 1. I'm not sure if they implemented that yet, that you don't lose gear in level 1. But
no, it's the next patch they're implementing.
Alright, so it's not yet in, but it's gonna come out soonish.
Sorry, what is coming in next soon? The new dungeons or?
No, that's level 1 crystals are not full loot.
Ah.
Yeah. So
To basically give a practice arena.
yeah. So Hellgates and crystals have different kind of metas simply because of the environment. In Hellgates, you have to kill bosses and kill minions, and you might have to fight in between minions. And there's also a middle big boss, which gives Gucci loot and Gucci fame. Crystals, on the other hand, is more about getting season points and fighting over the control of 3 different nodes, which are capture points. So yeah, you can see why they might have a very different kind of meta. Of course, a lot of the builds can be used in both, but they have strictly different kinds of goals, I would say. So let's talk about Hellgates first, I guess, since that's probably what people are more interested about. So 5v5 Hellgates, you can go with basically any kind of build, and 5v5 Hellgates are a lot more hardcore compared to 2v2. There's not as many shitters, there's not as many rats, but you do see them sometimes, so you're gonna be losing a lot compared to just doing 2v2s. And it's very hard to get an acceptable win rate, like 70% win rate or something. Unless you have a good team and know what you're doing. So yeah, Hellgates, you have 5 bosses on the outside. You have minions around them, which block you from going to the next one. You can always run through them, of course. But you don't really want to fight in the minions, because they can dish out some good damage. Once all the 5 bosses are killed, then the middle boss spawns after 1 minute, which gives the most fame. In black and red zones, I believe it gives around 270k fame if you have premium. And it also gives good loot.
TK, what do you want here?
Yes. Hello.
Subluck box.
Hi. Okay. So what kind of group compositions are there in 5v5 Hellgates? There's 2 healer comps. There's a regular 1 tank, 1 healer 3 DPS comp. And in those 3 DPS, you can have like a dive group. You can have 2 melee, 1 range, or even 3 melee to just dive their healer. And that's why Hellgates are also so much different in terms of crystals. Because Hellgates, it's just one fight, and whoever wins that one fight wins the Hellgate. Unlike in crystals, where even if you lose the first fight, it's not game over yet. And you can change your composition in any way possible. So, 5 Hellgate group comps. So, healer, like in 2v2s, it's not quite the same as in 2v2s. It's gonna be a bit more defensive since it's gonna be a 5v5. And the staff's also gonna be a bit different because you want to heal a lot more people than just one person. Yeah, the healer usually will be running, if you're going pretty cheap, you might run like a cleric robe or a fiend robe, or even a robe of purity if you're going a bit hardcore or a bit more expensive, I guess. Helmets, I would say if you're running a druidic staff, then probably a graveguard helmet. But you might be also running holy with the redemption staff, so you might be running stuff like guardian helmet or a cleric cowl. Probably a cleric cowl, to be honest, because in Hellgates you get a lot of dive comps, so they'll just like dive you, and you really need to have that defensive on you. If you're using Limhurst Cape, then you really want to have resistance potions on you at least, and stay at the back of your team to know what the enemy team has. And if they don't have a dive comp, then you just swap back to energy potion, and you're gonna be expecting a longer fight, so you can keep up the energy and keep healing your team. Anything else about healer? Obviously omelets. So healer staff's choices, it's mostly gonna be redemption staff for holy staff because of the bouncy ball. Since the bouncy ball can bounce and heal a lot. And holy OP. No. What even is a one-handed holy? Oh yeah, it's the low health heal. I mean, it's usable, but it's definitely not meta. And then a druidic staff is gonna be a lot better in 5v5s compared to 2v2s. But yeah, I would actually say druidic's pretty solid in 5v5s, especially if you know what you're doing. But again, holy seems to be a lot more meta compared to nature.
One-handed nature as well in 5s.
Yeah, it's okay. It's solid, but again, holy is usually just better. Actually, I'm not sure, but I feel like Hellgates might be a bit different, because I think in Hellgates you might actually want nature because you want the mobility and not to get like instantly destroyed by some cunts just jumping on you. So I'd actually be running nature in Hellgate if you have a nature healer. But both are perfectly fine. Your mic scuffed, right?
No. Your mic is really scuffed.
My mic is
I think
scuffed?
it's immortal. Oh, now it's
Yeah.
better.
Huh?
It was up your butt.
Oh, it was on my cheek. Cool. I guess I was sitting poorly. Well, fuck it. I was just trying to relax and shit. No posture. Okay. So, like I said, the most common is probably gonna be a healer, tank, and 3 DPS. So the tank role is, I would say, the hardest role in Hellgates and 5v5s, because you have to know what to do, and there's so many different, like, how do you say it, variables, I guess, on what you should be doing as a tank. Ha! I said it before you fucking typed it, you dumb.
You said it incorrectly.
I said variable. What do you mean? You dumb.
Variable.
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 Huh?
Variable.
Variable,
I don't give a fuck.
not variable.
I'm gonna Google this right now. Variable.
It's variable.
Even I know this.
I
Variable.
don't care. How to say. How to pronounce.
Feels bad.
Variable.
Variable. There you go.
What happens when you skip high school?
Exactly. I don't care.
No skull due to corona. Feels bad.
No corona. All right. So yeah. So tanks really need to be on their A game to know what to do. Usually at the start of the fight, you should be trying to disrupt their DPS so that you can either leash for your healer or like peel for your healer. I guess not leash, but so that your healer doesn't get instantly fucking dicked. And once your team gets some pressure on the enemy team, then you really want to try and start harassing their healer so that his healing output will be minimized as much as possible, and your team could get a kill. Since usually once you get a kill in a fight, you're then 5v4 and you should be able to win the fight 9 out of 10 times, unless you're Pepija. So really trying to, and that's why bursty comps are super good in Hellgate. Yeah. Tanks usually, there's actually a lot of choices what tanks can use in terms of weapons and armor. Tanks can use Great Hammer is probably the most meta weapon right now. Also, Ironclad is used a lot. Great Hammer, Big Boy Stun. Ironclad is used to isolate a target, so you Fiend Sandals them, which swaps positions with the other player, and then you just use the Ironclad staff E to knock them away further and further, so that they can't get heals. Or you could just always Ironclad the healer as well, from away from their team, and that way get some pressure on. Are there any other meta tank weapons? Quarterstaff is also used a lot, just because of Big Boy Root, so you can stack like any kind of like dot under them, like a fire pool or stuff like that. Trying to think if there's any other tank weapons that I've seen.
Is heavy mace used,
yeah,
or is it
heavy
only
mace,
for
heavy
crystals?
mace. Yeah, heavy mace. I also see heavy mace sometimes, since it has a big boy purge. You can purge all the enemies around the heavy mace. Plus, it has a pretty solid W with the root. Yeah, I've also seen some tanks use Black Hands, but very rarely, and it's not really a. Okay, let's mute him. All right, it's not very. Yeah, it's not the best, but I've definitely seen it. You get one purge, you would always just rather use a Black Hammer or something, or like a
Black hammer.
Black. You would use a heavy mace instead for the purge, I would say. Sure, the other thing has a much better CC. You got muted because of your keyboard, Pheasant. 100 Arcane, yeah, I mean, 1 Arcane is also seen. And it's actually like very strong when you just frazzle someone and then get strong damage on them. And you can also get the big shield on a big shield on your DPS who are getting focused, or your healer. So Arcane is a very solid choice as well for a tank, but also not as commonly seen. Yeah. DPS choices. There's a lot of DPS choices. We'll talk about the melee choices first, I think. So melee choices, you can basically almost play every single melee weapon that is viable, of course, not fucking trash melee weapons. Things like broadsword, claymore, carving sword are often seen, as well as forge hammers are also seen a lot, which are amazing. What other melee weapons do we have? Spears. We rarely see spears, but sometimes you might see a Trinity Spear in like a dive all-in comp where you use 3 melees. You use like a Trinity Spear, a Claymore, and a Carving, for example, and you just burst the target down like the healer. You just go all in on the healer and don't give a fuck about anything else and just destroy him. And hopefully you kill him before their DPS kills your healer, basically. Yeah, other melee weapons, not really any quarterstaff that I've seen. That's basically all melee weapons, actually. Also halberd. Halberd is also seen a lot in Hellgates. It's very good with dots from the bleed stacks, since you can spread the bleed stacks to all 5 players pretty easily, or at least like 3. So it can dish out a lot of damage.
You know what I'm about to ask you. What about the daggers?
No. Wait, can
You know
I
it
answer
was
that?
probably-
Can I answer that?
Sure, you can answer that.
So once we were doing crystals once, and their tank was using knight armor and bloodletter. You can try that.
Okay, so sometimes you can see bloodletter DPS, which is actually viable, but again, it's not as good as something like a claymore or something other, but it's definitely viable. You can use it, but yeah. You can also sometimes see claws, but that's some all-in Papeja stuff, so not really. I mean, Quasars died to a claw boy last time, I believe.
Because they suck.
Yes, because you suck. Ranged weapons, there's a lot of curse. Usually the Great Curse is what people use as a curse staff, since you can get the curse stacks sticking on a lot of people. And also using the sickle, which is huge sickle on the choke. Permafrost is usually used because of the big AoE. Fire staffs, I believe I've seen both Great Fire staffs as well as Infernal staffs, but mostly Infernal staffs because of the contagious fire. So you can get a big dot and it can spread to more people over time. Other ranged weapons include bow. You can see regular bow every now and then. Just because of the very strong single target DPS. As well as crossbow. Light crossbow is usually seen if someone's using a crossbow. Light crossbow is super good. It's just like enables people to burst because of the thunder shot and the bomb. So you can easily burst a target with, say, a claymore from even full HP. So if for example, you have a light crossbow using exploding shot and thunder shot, and the light crossbow calls it, and the claymore uses his E at the same time after the thunder shot is gone off and the exploding shot is about to go off. You can basically 100 to 0 a target with these 2 or these 3 skills even, and if not, it's gonna pop a lot of defensives if they don't protect it in any way, or it's gonna force out big heals from the healer. Usually it does kill a target if done correctly. So, with these 3 DPS comps, you have either 2 melee DPS and 1 range DPS. You can also have 1 melee DPS, 2 range DPS. Yeah. Or you can even have 3 range DPS, which is not recommended, I believe. But hey, everything works probably. So I'll talk about 3 different comps, I think. One comp is gonna be Carbon Claymore Light Crossbow, which is just like burst. One comp which me, Quasars, and our GVG team used to run, or still run if we ever manage to get back to GVGing or Hellgating, is a Light Crossbow, Claymore, and Great Curse. And then one comp which is focused on dots is a Great Curse, an Infernal Staff, and a Halberd. So these 3 comps are all super good. So dot comp, which was the Halberd, Infernal Staff, Great Curse, it's all about whittling down the enemy, and over time you should be able to pressure the enemy enough so that they just can't keep up with the damage that you deal with your dots on all the targets. So the other comp, which was the carving or broadsword plus claymore, and a light crossbow, that's all about just bursting one target down quickly as possible. So you would use a Thundershot and Explosive Arrow with the Carving E and the Claymore E, and that should always kill a target, unless they use Puppet Defensive, which after that you just wait for the same target to use another defensive, and once the target has no defensive left, you just kill that one target. And yeah, once you are 5v4, then you should be able to win the fight. And then our comp, which is more about in between, which is the Light Crossbow, Claymore, plus the Great Curse. It's more in like in between these 2 comps. You get a lot of pressure, but you also get the kill potential out of the Light Crossbow Claymore comp, or combo, I would say. So you can whittle them down, and then you can drop the explosive shot and Claymore E to kill a target off, and then clean up after that.
If you're running with the dot, like you said, Great Curse, Infernal, and Halberd,
Yeah.
is it viable with double healer setup, or you would still use a tank?
It's
in that
viable.
setup?
It's viable with double healer, but I'm not sure how strong. Quasars. I'm not sure if double healer is as good anymore in Hellgate, or is it still super strong?
In Hellgates, it's still good, but in Crystals, no.
Yeah, in Crystals you wouldn't do that, but in Hellgates, yeah, you could do that. Especially since you can like try and just outlast your opponent.
And do you take things like fiend ropes in there for extra fears, or
So
don't you focus
so
on
basically, I think the armors are always going to be the same with the next following sets that I'm going to talk about. So if you're using a halberd, you're usually going to be using soldier armor. And one thing I'm going to say real quick is mage sandals are used with almost every single build except the tank. Just because the delayed blink is great at getting away from spots, and it can't be cancelled, which is very important. Unlike cleric sandals, which can be cancelled, the mage sandals cannot be cancelled. So you can just pop it somewhere, and then after like half a second or 1 second, you teleport there. So you can get away from like ironclad staff or like any kind of lockdown CC. Any kind of burst that's coming your way, you can just make it back to your healer and get some heals. Even if you're low HP, you can just blink back to your healer and get some heals. And yeah, mage sandals are extremely important in 5v5s, both Hellgates and GVGs. So yeah.
and
1 second.
is it fiend sandal? Okay.
Mage sandal. Fiend sandals are used with tanks sometimes, but or most of the time. But also, cultist sandals are also used with tanks as well. But, yeah.
I was going to join a Hellgate team, and as a Hellbert, they told me to use. I don't know if it's called Fiend Sandals, but the ones that you leave the thing on the ground and they
That's
lose
that's
resistances.
Cultist Sandals, I believe.
Cultist Sandals, yeah. Is that like viable, or is it better for a Hellbert to just do mage as well?
It's definitely viable, but I would just take the protection of Mage Sandals probably myself at least, just so that I can just jump to Quasars and say like, give me some love, and heal me up right there and then. Yes, love. What the fuck have you been typing over? Okay. What else? Okay, we were talking about DPS. So let's talk about the range DPS first. Where were we? So normally, Great Curse and Light Crossbow usually are running basically the same armor. They both use Cleric Cowls because it's just a big defensive against light crossbows, which are meta, and also like big E's, like a Claymore E or something. Other things that I've used are usually a Mage Robe or a Cleric Robe. You usually have one of each. Usually you have the Mage Robe on the Curse player, or yeah, usually you just have one Mage Robe, one Cleric Robe. Usually the Cleric Robe is on the Light Crossbow. If we're talking about my comp, which is Light Crossbow, Claymore, Great Curse, and Mage Robe usually on the Curse. Simply because the Cleric Robe gets the extra damage, and if you get the Cleric Robe and the Explosive Shot off at the same time, you get the extra burst damage off. Yeah, boots, like we said, almost always Mage Sandals on almost everything because of how strong it is. Capes are usually always going to be a Limhurst cape with range DPS because if you run out of energy, you're pretty useless. You can't deal damage. Yeah, just have a Limhurst cape. Yeah. Also bows. Bows usually have a different build. Bows are going to be running a Mage Robe. Mage Robe or Cleric Robe again. But they use an Assassin Hood because they want to get their cooldown, the E back as soon as possible if their E gets purged. So you can just keep spamming that E and keep getting that E stacked off and getting that damage out. As well, you might be using a Thetford cape as a bow instead of a Limhurst cape. Yeah, I think that's also Permafrost is sometimes used, but the Permafrost is going to be always the same meta build that's always been used, which is the Scholar Robe, Royal Cowl, Mage Sandals, and Permafrost with a Morgana cape. Fire Infernal Staff can also be using a Morgana cape, but usually it's going to be using a Limhurst cape. I think that's about it about range DPS. Light Crossbow also, you usually use either a Muisak or a Chandelier, or whatever it's called. Is it a Chandelier?
Candle.
Crypt Candle. Chandelier. Okay, maybe not a Chandelier, Crypt Candle. Yeah, simply because you're in the back line, you can get extra damage with the Crypt Candle if you know what you're doing. But if you get poked hard, then you're gonna take a lot more damage, and it's not good. Melee DPS. If you're running double, okay, let's just talk about the comp that I've been talking about so far. So, Claymore usually uses a Stalker Hood, or a Purge Hood, or Fiend Cowl, that is. You can also use other hoods if you need something else, but it's usually going to be either a Stalker Hood or a Fiend Cowl. Usually, if not always, you're going to be using a Soldier Armor because of the extra damage you can output over time, as well as the Mage Sandals, which are obviously always used. I personally use a Tether cape, but I've also seen some people use Limhurst capes, but I don't find myself to have much of energy problems with Claymore, so I would recommend using a Tether cape. And if you do need more energy, just swap to a Limhurst cape. Yeah, that's basically the meta comp, or meta comp in quotation marks, our comp. If you're doing double melee and one backline, you're probably gonna be swapping the soldier armors for like a Hellion jacket or a Stalker jacket to get that extra damage output, and that you can dive a target much easier. Well, not easier, but you can deal damage to a target much faster and get the survivability from the Hellion jacket or the damage output of the Stalker jacket. Yeah. Also, I feel like in Hellgate, if you're going with a dive comp, you might actually not be using mage sandals, but you just might be using guardian boots, because you're just gonna go all in, and if you don't kill that person target within the all in, you're most likely just gonna lose. So that's why dive comps work in Hellgate, because if you just win once, you're gonna win the whole Hellgate.
The stalker hood you were talking about earlier, is it mainly for the armor penetration, the resistance reduction, or do people actually use invis comms in Hellgates?
It's people don't really use invis comps in Hellgate. It's actually Stalker Hood is actually mostly used just for the extra damage that you get, the 10% extra damage, not even the resistance drop, which if the target's under 50%, unless you're like with a diving comp, then you're gonna use the Stalker Hood for the reduced resistances. But like with the light crossbow and claymore, you don't use the Stalker Hood when the target is below 50%, but you use it before you use your E, so that you can get that extra 10% damage on your E and kill the target with the light crossbow E combo. So Claymore gets the three stacks on his Q, uses Stalker Hood E, and then the target should be dead, as well as when the crossbow is using the thunder or the explosive shot, thunder shot, which deals immense damage when both are used in combination. Anything else you would like to ask?
It's just I don't know. Would you? Since I'm somewhat new to the Hellgates, I would like to do more yellows. But how legit is the experience that you get from that? Is it any good beyond getting to know each other?
I think yellows are fine. There's a lot of people who actually do yellows with actual comps, so it's definitely like super viable to learn in yellows, since you can have a lot lower IP gear or gear. And yeah, I would really recommend doing 5v5 yellow Hellgates compared to like blue 1v1s or 2v2s, which are just people coming in with trash. They're like coming with over item power, just because of yellow Hellgates. Because you have the full loot system, and it's pretty low IP, and there's a pretty high soft cap. I'm pretty sure it's 700 IP with 80% soft cap. So you're not gonna see people with like tier 7 stuff and shit like that. It's mostly gonna be people with 4-1s and who are just learning Hellgates. So I really recommend going and doing some yellow Hellgates to just learn comps, learn how to play. Yeah.
So you only overcharge in red Hellgates?
You only overcharge ever if you want to get over a certain point of IP. So in red Hellgates, if you're going with like 4-1 and you're hitting like 1k IP, you might want to overcharge. But yeah, it's mostly in red Hellgate where it's a lot more competitive. You want to overcharge. Yeah, there's no real point in overcharging in yellow Hellgate.
But is overcharging still a thing? Because before Queen update it was super cheap, but now it's, I don't know, it's 10k in energy, and you need how many energy for a full set overcharge?
It's 10k energy. Energy is 3k each, and you need 10 of them, so it's
Ah.
30k for
Okay,
overcharge.
so
Actually, it's
okay,
more now.
understood.
It's 4.2 at the
Okay,
moment.
so it's gone up a bit, but it's still 42k for an overcharge, which is 100 IP in every single armor piece and weapon. So I still feel like the value is there if you're gonna go for a 5v5 red Hellgate. But yeah, don't overcharge in yellow Hellgate. It's definitely not worth it. Yeah. What else could we talk about? 5v5 Hellgate. So we've talked about dive comps, we've talked about the dot comps, we've talked about our in-between comp. Then obviously there's gonna be like a 4 melee 1 healer comp, which is just like everyone just it's basically the same as dive comp, but there's no tank, and you basically just dive the healer. You just throw all of your DPS on the healer onto their healer, and hope you kill them. It's definitely viable in quotation marks, but yeah, you can't do it.
If you would be using fiend calls or other things that purge, is there a way to learn in general what is worth purging and what is better to save it off? Like,
So we haven't talked about tanks yet, so I think I'll talk about that now. I mean, we've talked about actually we haven't talked much about tanks at all. So yeah, there's a lot of things. Okay, let's just talk about tank. First of all, we already discussed the tank weapons, which were the hammers, the maces, and whatnot, ironclads. Usually as a tank, you would run the perch helmet, the fiend cowl, or you could also use a scholar cowl for the boop, or what else? A demon helmet is also sometimes used for the silence, and you just drop that on the healer. Plate body, there's a lot of choices. Ironclads usually use a night. You actually usually use night armor, but you can use a night armor for the wind wall. Yeah, you can also use the night armor with like a great hammer to get an inertia ring and night armor wind wall. What else? Duty armor is used a lot because of the area that you get defense and extra healing inside there. Is there any guardian armor is sometimes used for the extra defense or the reduced damage from the opponents? And is there anything else? I'm trying to think if there's any other armor piece I've seen on tanks. They're always going to be using plate armor. I'm pretty sure that's it for tank armors. Boots, you can be using cultist sandals for the reduced resistances and reduced healing. You could also be using the fiend sandals for the swap. So you can swap someone and then like Great Hammer E and stun a lot of people. Ooh. Quasars. What if in the future our tank uses a Hood of Tenacity?
I would say Armor of Valor, no?
No.
What? Why not Quasars?
No to the Valor. Yes to the Hood.
Yeah, like
What?
imagine our tank uses a Hood of Tenacity.
But then we don't have Purge.
Yeah, but then I'll be using like a fiend count.
Then the melee would have to use a Purge because unless you're running heavy mace, maybe you can afford it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like Hood of Tenacity could be used in GVGs. Like I feel like we should try it out at least in scrims.
New meta, let's go.
Let's go. Okay. So yeah, Hood of Tenacity, new meta. You have never heard of this. Erase it from your head. So yeah, I mean we already talked that tank is gonna be trying to CC and peel for the healer, and then CCing the opponent's healer once you get the pressure. But the thing is about what to purge. So the tanks, one of the tanks, what is it called? Not roles, jobs, I guess. One of the tank's jobs is to purge like valuable purge targets. So we're just gonna list out a lot of stuff that's gonna
Bow,
be...
perma,
Yeah.
limber skip.
Shut the fuck. So yeah, like Quasar said, Bow E is a very high target, target to get purged, as well as if there's a permafrost, if they're using a Morgana cape or a Scholar robe, you want to purge that.
But is it correct to like I played tank 3 times in 3 scrims, and in very noobish terms, right? If you don't know anything about the game, is it correct if they show up red with wings, meaning Morgana? So if they show up red, or I don't know, you get certain colors. Is it correct that in general?
One thing, like in general, you should try and learn every single skill and what they look like in the game. Just go over each like weapon and armor piece, and just read like all of the skills, and then try and see what they look like in the game. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say you can read the skill, but you don't know what color it would have if you use it, right?
yeah, I mean, if you want, you can always just Google the skill or the weapon, but you can also just unlock tier 4 if you want and just use the skill yourself to see what it looks like. Or ask someone like me who has everything unlocked if you want to see like what some skill looks like. But I would highly recommend you to learn every single skill in the game.
Okay. Okay, I'll try.
Yes. Like it just comes over time. You'll learn all of the skills obviously over time, but it helps to proactively try and learn them. So other purge targets. Some people are using a robe of purity with like a great fire staff and using the fire artillery. You can purge the robe of purity and then stun them to cancel the fire artillery.
Hellion jacket.
Hellion jacket is a great target, which is the swirly whirly red things around you.
That's an easy one.
Yeah, soldier armor, if you don't have much else to purge, is also a solid thing to purge. Also, if a sword has a 3 stacks of Q up, you can also purge that to make them annoyed.
Healers purge.
Yeah, healers, you can get the Limhurst kit, you can get a Royal Cal if they're using a Royal Cal. And
You can purge a cleric robe if you're fast enough.
yeah, you can purge a
Which
cleric
happened
Cal,
to me.
but usually that's really not really worth it.
In a dive comp though, it's
In a dive, I guess, but it's not really like necessary in my opinion. So yeah, soldier armor.
You can purge the bubble itself or the buff that will give the bubble if he
bubble.
takes 1 more damage.
Actually, I don't know if
it purges the bubble, but I think both.
I would assume both,
And
but
You can try it now.
And a cleric, can you purge the cleric
Cleric
cowl
cleric
as
cowl
well?
cannot be purged. No.
Ah.
That's why cleric cowl is so often used. You can also try and purge a mage robe if they haven't done much. Also, druid robe. If someone's using a druid robe, you really want to try and purge that because it's a 1-minute cooldown. And yeah, some weapon ease.
No
also,
Quasars,
also, if there's like a forge hammer, then his Morgana cape or hunter jacket. Is it hunter jacket? Yeah, it's a hunter jacket. You can purge those and really fuck them up. And yeah, obviously, if anyone ever had any questions about 5F Hellgates, please feel free to PM me in game or in Discord. Yeah, so I think that's mostly what I want to talk about Hellgate 5 yeah, ask questions if you want. Crystals, the comps are basically almost the same, but there's more variety, in my opinion. There's also some comps that use like a double healer just to get the caps. So let's talk about crystals. So crystals, it's like arena. There's 3 things that you can cap, 1 in the middle and 2 on the sides. The caps will drain your opponent's points down to 0, and once it's at 0, you win the game. That's why you really want to try and get those caps off, and you don't want your opponent to 3-cap you, or else you will lose double the points compared to if you had 2 caps and 1 cap. Usually fighting happens in the middle of the map, one team holding the top, and another is trying to push from the bottom to the middle. And yeah. So comps are the 3 comps that I've already said, all work in crystals just as well, which is a dog comp, the 2 milli 1 range DPS, as well as the in between. They all work pretty well in crystals, or like well in crystals if you know how to do it. And there are also some other comps which include a very annoying double healer comp. Can you talk about the double healer comp, Voln, actually, since Voln is here?
Yeah.
I would love to know about double healer.
You want to know about the double healer comp?
Yeah, in crystals.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
In crystals.
In crystals? Okay,
Yeah.
I've never played it in crystal personally, but I can tell you about it in Hellgates. Or you mean the like the Arrow 404 comp?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can tell something about that. So in the crystals, you'll sometimes see a GVG comp where they usually take a life touch healing stick and I think it's a druidic. Is it a druidic?
Sure. I think it's double holy, but
I guess they might do double holy these days. I don't know. But the original one was a life touch and a druidic. And the idea of the whole comp is not so much to kill the enemy team, but more just to sustain until you outpressure them. So they often play with black hands and then a light crossbow and a curse, great curse. And all they're doing is not dying, basically. All of the gear they're using is all defensive, so they're all running Guardian boots for the Gigantify. They all run Cleric robe, and all the DPS are running Cleric Cowl as well for the Ice Block, except maybe the Black Hands. The Black Hands also runs Adjudicator armor for the increased healing and extra resist. And so they're just basically, trying to not die and do damage to you until you basically run out of energy or you take too much pressure and you have to fall back. And
Yeah,
so usually what they do is they send 2 people to the opposite capstone from where you would normally go, just to interrupt you from capping, while the other players go cap their closest stone. And basically they just stop you from capping while you're unable to kill them, and they have a cap, so they're scoring points and you're not. And that's all they're trying to do, is stop you from capping, not so much trying to kill you. And that's how they win. It's super frustrating to play against.
yeah, it's a very annoying comp, and it's just trying to survive.
I don't know what the double healer comps look like now in GVG's, the double holy ones, but in Hellgates they're often more like of a dive comp. It's a type of dive where you usually have 2 healers and like 3 melee DPS.
Yeah.
And the melee DPS just run in and try and combo someone and kill them quickly.
Yeah, we talked about the Hellgate stuff.
Okay.
So, yeah, crystals, since crystals are more about they're not just a single fight like in Hellgates. It's more about the continual fights over a longer period of time, where you can actually swap gear if you need to counter something and happen to have some kind of different picks. Which is why it's sometimes important to have extra items, like if you need, like, if the tank sees that the enemy doesn't have anything to purge, or if the tank sees that they have a lot of things to purge, they might want to either swap to like a heavy mace to get more purges, or swap to like a great hammer and take off the purges for like a heavy mace or something. What else could we talk about from crystals? So does anyone have any questions about crystals?
We did some scrims here, but maybe something that does interest me. Usually when we do scrims, we try to keep it fair and then let the other guys cap. But
Yeah.
let's say you're ahead and you notice that you're actually winning the most of the fights. Do you risk it and go for a third cap, or is it better to just play def and stay with 2 caps? Like,
so it really depends. Like if you win a fight and push them away, you're definitely gonna go for the third cap. And if you see that the enemy is, or the timer is ticking down to like 10 seconds, and the enemy is just about to cap the third place back, you may want to try and disrupt that to get the double points, but it's going to be a lot more risky because that one person, which is usually going to be the tank, is going to take a lot of free damage, and you're going to be down a lot of damage in the upcoming fight. So usually it's not worth to risk it unless you're super confident that you're definitely going to win the fight. Yeah, that's basically.
And if you would do crystals in general, if you're just talking about yourself now, how often do you take different sets? Like, for example, do you take a blazing and a curse, or a permafrost, or do you take 3 blazings with you, or like?
So what I normally do as a Claymore player is that I have 3 Claymore sets, and then I have 2 Halberd sets. So if we, for some reason, can't burst the target, then we can swap to a more dot comp and slowly whittle down the enemy, instead of just trying to burst a single target down as quickly as possible. Any other questions so far?
Would you go back to the chest to swap your weapons then, or you have it on you all times,
No,
both weapons?
I would die, or if someone dies and we go back to the chest, then I would swap, but definitely not like in the middle of a fight. But always, if either we lose a fight and I need to we're going back to the chest anyway, or if I die myself, then I'll swap to the set if I deem it necessary to swap to it.
In some situations, for example, a healer might, when they initially run out, have multiple helmets on them if they don't know what the enemy tank's going to be using. For example, if they're on some kind of stun comp, the healer might want to have a Merc hood in his backpack instead of whatever he's using, like a Graveguard, or a Night Helm in case of a lot of knockbacks, or Ironclad and stuff.
Yeah, Ironclad.
You have to be fast, right? Because once you heal one person that's in combat, you can't switch your helmet for 40 seconds.
Yeah, so basically, in that case, you want people to call out what the tank is using, and then once you know, you back off, take your cap.
Is it only if you take damage or deal damage that you enter combat?
I think
not
healing
sure
an
healing.
in-combat target puts you in combat. I'm not 100% sure, but
But yeah.
So what would you suggest is the best tactics for dealing with people that are doing the 2 healer set if you were in a GVG?
Getting cultist sandals on your tank, for first of all, to get the reduced healing. As well, I think Vol, you weren't here when we were talking about it, but I think, what if our tank started to use Hood of Tenacity? What do you think about that, Vol?
purge.
I've never played with it before, so I
But
wouldn't know.
what do you think if we start to use Hood of Tenacity, and then the Claymore, which is me, I would be using a Purge. Since look at this, look. Are you watching the stream?
Sorry, 1 second.
Or you
Hood of
can
Tenacity,
open it
blah,
yourself.
blah. Damage enemies. 50%. Yeah, so that would be pretty good.
Yeah.
You could even dive a healer with that, probably.
Yeah, so I was thinking like you just drop this on a healer and then you try and dive the healer, or you drop this on any target basically, and then just try and burst it down. I think this would be more for like a dot comp instead of the hour comp.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's also a very solid possibility. Yeah, that's probably gonna be very good against the double healer comp. Also just trying to surprise and burst one target down is usually how we manage to defeat them. Not sure if there's any other way we normally beat them, at least, except if we burst a single target down after using all of their defensives on that one target, and just keep trying to go on that one single target, so that one single target is losing all their defensives. And whenever they're using their defensive, then just swap targets until that first person's defensive are down, and then just hop back on that one person.
Yeah. There's basically two comps in Albion. There's a sustain comp and a combo / dive comp.
Yeah.
Like stupid stuff like the pike. I know pike is nerfed now, but like pike in crystals is something you don't see, right? Or you still see it?
No.
I've never seen a pike in it.
2v2s tend to be more gimmicky than the 5v5s. I mean, 5v5s can be gimmicky
you
as well.
do see 5 warbows in Hellgates.
Yeah.
But that's even then, like it's not a very solid comp, especially if the other team has any experience. Yeah. Any other questions about crystals or Hellgates or overall?
Is something like a regular 2 regular bows and bolt casts or something crazy like that? Is it complete dog shit, or?
I mean, I've seen
I've
seen
two bows.
I've seen 2 bows, but it's like if you have a single, like if you just have a heavy mace, then it's gonna fuck there.
Okay.
I don't think it's the best. Sure, you can burst the target, but
the problem is it's easy to counter with that kind of thing. Like if the enemy team has no purge, then yeah, it's going to be amazing because you're going to shred them so hard. But if they have 2 fiend cowls and a heavy mace, then you're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Well, that's good diving.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. So
we can scream or dive. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna end the lesson here. Hope if you have any other questions, feel free to DM me or whisper me or stuff like that. And I hope to see you soon. We're gonna go diving some statics now, since it is Fame Week and people are most likely gonna be doing a lot of statics. So yeah, hope to see you joining us in diving. I don't think we're gonna have a max people cap where anyone can join.
Dude, I wanna come so bad, but can you give me like 3 minutes till I lose the arena?
No problem. I'm gonna get me something real quick as well. Alright, I'm just gonna pop out the video.